Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first match of Top Cut. We have Top 32 Blue Crocodile from Starter Deck, one of the first ones, Starter Deck 3, versus Rebecca from Set 4. Now, I'm going to have to be a little bit quiet because the room has a lot of fewer people in it, and I don't want them to be able to hear me as I commentate. So, if I sound a little quiet to you, that's just by design. So, Starter Croc is a deck that we see fluctuate in viability as time goes on, but the leader effect, very powerful. Don -4, you return one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less to the hand. It's a leader that has the ability to transcend the format that it's currently in. Sort of just sits and waits until you get a format where characters sort of sit on the board before they get their value for a turn. And Rebecca is one of those decks that can have characters sit on the board and wait a turn before they can get value. No rushers and cards
We're
that
in the
do have on
box.
play effects, but
57. Please report to
that
the
kind of
stage. We're in
rely
the
on
box. 57 to the stage,
a
please.
combination of cards on your board. Like you need Orlumbus to really make Toy Soldier a very impactful card against things that aren't naturally one drops. And Croc can take advantage of that by keeping those cards off the board. Now your removal or Lumbus isn't just established, you have to re-establish it. Or maybe they'll bottom deck it with some other kind of removal. And so Rebecca might struggle into this match a little bit because Rebecca does have cards that sort of wait a turn. And so it'll be very interesting to see how this matchup goes as the players get done with their mulligan and get ready to play. So while they're shuffling up, while they're shuffling up, Crocodile, I believe, is on the higher seed. So higher seed gets to choose whether they go first or second. I'm going to be very interested to see Crocodile's decision. I think the choice that you make is to go second. We see him dropping a couple cards there. See the new 10 drop Kaido in the deck. It bounces an 8 cost and a 3 cost back to the hand. Pretty strong card. Very large card, a 10-12, sort of just lives on the board for quite a while. But Rebecca does have ways to remove it that other decks really just don't. We'll be very interested to see if Croc will be able to open with the set one special Sentamaru. Going second. Okay, so we do in fact see that. So, yep, Croc chooses to go second. I agree with it. We're going to see the Rebecca effect go down, grab a toy soldier, get rid of a Leo, and pass. So, on his first turn, Croc, being a slower deck, doesn't really have anything to do, and is going to go ahead and pass. And we're going to see Rebecca go and play a Rebecca. We see a sword or Lumbus and a 3000 worlds flipped. Can't take the 3000 worlds. Okay. Takes the sword, and the other two go to the trash. And then with the other two done, we're going to put down a blocker and let our opponent read the removal spell that we just added to our hand. And again, sorry about that audio issue earlier. Long story short, there's a lot of whitebeards in Top Cut. Pretty much summarizes everything that I was saying. All right, we're going to see Croc go to leader. Just 5k across the table. And then we're going to play down the Pacifista. Very wise play there. If Croc does have a Sentamaru, he just saw Rebecca add a removal spell to hand. So you want to kind of wait to play the Sentamaru until you can get value off of it, which would be next turn. And then we're probably going to see the removal come down. We do. The sword just removes a 4-drop at this stage of the game. When you get to 15, it removes a 6-drop. Croc going to 6, and if we have a Sentamaru, this is probably the turn we're going to see it come down. Rebecca going to counter out, and then, yep, Sentamaru comes down, equip the Dawn, pay 2 more, and get a Pacifista from the deck. A tale as old as time. Yeah, Croc just does a quick look through the deck. How many pacifistas are left? How many times can I use Sentimaru's effect realistically? Croc player will need to go a little bit faster through the deck search though. There we go. All right, we've got Pacifista on board once again. And that'll probably be the pass turn there because there's nothing else that he can do. And we're going to see Rebecca go into 7. Now we might see a Luffy come down just to take out the Sentimaru if Rebecca has a Luffy. Because Colosseum is on board, Luffy can swing on that Sentimaru. And Sentimaru represents a threat. Okay, we're going to see 5. Is this a Cavendish? Oh, now that is cool. We did not get to see Cavendish yesterday, but it is it's an on attack version of the Leo. So Don 1, it's like a mixture of the Leo and the Luffy. You put one Don on it and he can attack active characters, but you can rest your leader when he attacks to KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less, and then 2 cards get trashed. So because of Colosseum, he gets to attack characters this turn, and he put a Don on it and swung. Unfortunately, countered out of it, but still very, very cool play. More copies of Luffy, in a sense, and more copies of just removal. We're going to see 8 go at Cavendish. It's pretty recognized there that the Cavendish is a threat. So we're going to go ahead and do our best to take the Cavendish out. And down goes the Cavendish, and we're going to see Centauro go ahead and attack. This tells us that there probably aren't that many Pacifistas left in deck. Croc doesn't think that there's going to be a whole lot of more times of activating Centauro. Now, it is interesting, even though Rebecca, the leader, cannot attack, because Colosseum's on the board, the Centauro, the moment is rested, is not safe. It can be attacked by cards that haven't been played yet and aren't on the board. So it is a risk to the Centauro. But we are getting into the later turns now. We're getting to the point where we start dropping Mihawks. And Luffy comes down too, meaning the Centauro attack was the correct move because it would not have survived the turn anyway. You see 8 on Centauro, that is most likely going to be good enough, and it is. Now, the question the Rebecca player has to ask is, do I attack again with this Luffy? Switching the Luffy to active mode is not really a question. It's something that's going to happen, but if you attack again, then you are staring down a lot of ways to potentially remove the Luffy. And of course, Luffy gets to put 7 cards back. Doesn't have to be Dressrosa cards, so the 3,000 Worlds back in the deck. Now, being a 7 drop against blue, Luffy is not safe. So it's not a bad idea to go ahead and swing again. We're going to see a double Kaya drop. So Luffy was at 9, Pacifista goes to 10 to stay in it. So Croc goes to 10 Don. There's plenty of options for Croc as far as removing this Luffy. And in fact, we see the writing on the wall for the Luffy in the hand as it gets shuffled there. 1 single Don on the leader, 9 Don remaining. We know what's going to happen. Luffy is going to go to the bottom of the deck. Mihawk comes down, and there it goes. Rebecca going to 1 life to Croc's 5 with Mihawk on board, Pacifista on board. Rebecca has a lot of ground to recover here. I just want to remind everybody, this is top cut, so it is best of 3. So there's still more game to be played. All right, so Rebecca has to do some kind of cleanup here or build a wall. And it looks like Rebecca is potentially going to go Sabo. Yep. So we see Sabo come down, draw to trash two, and keep the Bartolomeo safe. Trash two Colosseums. That might explain some of the struggles Rebecca's been having with countering out of attacks. But that's what Sabo is here for. Sabo is here to clear those extra copies of Colosseum. We only need one. And unfortunately, there goes Sabo. Sabo is very powerful against decks like Red, whose removal involves KOing. But blue bottom decks, blue returns to hand. These, this is just a very difficult match for Rebecca because of that. The built-in protection that your cards have doesn't really exist in this matchup. And now the Crocs on 10 Dawn, we just see the board come across the table. We see 9K, 9K, 8K, and that'll be game one. So Croc takes game one. Looks like Rebecca got flooded with cards that she could not counter with. My goodness. Yes, it looks like the 8K was enough. I believe I see a 10 drop Kuzan. I see a lot of boss monsters in the Rebecca deck. And this is not the matchup that you really want to see all those boss monsters in, because Croc is just going to 5, 6, 7 throughout the entire game, and if you get flooded with your boss monsters, you just start taking life, and Rebecca needs to be at 6 cards or less in hand so that she can use the leader effect and filter the deck. And we saw how difficult it was in that game for Rebecca to do that because the hand was flooded. So game one goes to Croc. Rebecca's going to get to choose whether she wants to go first or second. Rebecca probably going to choose to go second. Croc wants to be on an even curve, so even if the Rebecca player wants to be on an odd curve, it's a better idea to put your opponent on the curve they don't necessarily want to be on. Because if Croc is on 3 and just plays Sentimaru on 3 Dawn, it is not necessarily the safest Sentimaru in the world. We saw Cavendish too. So there are lots of ways that Rebecca can get to it, not necessarily on that turn, but Rebecca can set up to remove it. And players are going to go ahead and shuffle up. Very decisive victory for Crocodile in that game. Croc making it look easy. Will we see a starter Crocodile continue to top 16? Or will Rebecca find her footing? While this is going on, this event is hosted by PPG. There is a South Carolina event, October 7th. There's 3v3, plenty of card games to be played, some Dragon Ball if you're interested in that as well. You should come and check that out. Check out PPG events for all of the details and information. And again, we're just waiting for players to get set up here. All right. And we're going to go ahead and cut the decks. All right, and they're going to go ahead and go through their mulligan. All right, Croc is going to throw that hand back. A whole bunch of event cards. We're just waiting right now. Players are going to shuffle up. Definitely want to make sure we shuffle up pretty good there, especially after that last hand. Both players deciding to mulligan. We'll get into the game soon. This top cut, you want to make sure you've shuffled your opponent's deck very well. All right. So Croc is going to go first here. Just passes. We see Rebecca flip two Bardos off the top of the deck. Going to go ahead and add a Bardo, I guess, and pass the turn up. So now Croc goes to 3 Don, and we're just going to see 8 come across the table. This makes a lot of sense. Even if you have a Centauro here, you don't really want to play it. Not yet. You want to play Centauro a turn you can actually gain value off of it. And there we go. We see Orlumbus come down. This is a this is probably the best turn you can play Orlumbus because if there's a 3,000 worlds in your future, it does just make the Croc player pass his turn, and there's a 3,000 worlds in your future. Goodbye, Orlumbus. This is the problem. This is definitely the issue that Rebecca is going to face. Just like we talked about at the start, Rebecca's cards sort of just wait a turn, and Croc doesn't really stop it. Now, there's the card I like to call Toy Soldier, but this is the alt art, so that's Kyros. And then there's Toy Soldier. So we're establishing threats on the board, and Rebecca might be forced into a position where she has to just start attacking with these cards. Croc is really looking to drag this game out just a little bit, continue to get chip damage in, and use his boss monsters that match very, very well into Rebecca's boss monster. So we see 6 Dawn, we see 6 come across the table. I wonder, do we have a Centauro this turn? No, we have a Miss All Sunday and a Sasaki. Very interesting. The Sasaki is a brand new card that Blue Decks just got. It is a 2K, but on play you get to basically mulligan your hand. You return all cards in your hand to your deck, shuffle, and then draw cards equal to the number you had. So very, very cool card. Not many cards in one piece shuffle the deck. And so if something gets bottom decked, this card really allows you to get it potentially back in rotation. I really like this Sasaki. Most of the time you see it just be a 2K, but sometimes it gets played. And if your hand is not great, his It looks like he drew most of the same cards, honestly. But that also happens sometimes too. All right, we see Rebecca's effect go off. Now we're going to take the Gats. Solid choice. Gats would let the toy soldiers swing on one of the cards. We're going to see Toy Soldier goes across the table, Miss All Sunday blocks, and we're going to grab back our 3,000 worlds. And the other Toy Soldier looks like we hit a potential trigger. Is this yet another 3,000 worlds? No, this is I believe it's called Demolition Breath. This is another new card. Yes, this is Demolition Breath. So its trigger effect is to return a 6 or less to the hand. And it also has the counter effect of it's a 2 cost plus 4. And then you get to bottom deck a 1-drop. Very good against Zoro. Oh, we see Luffy get played, and we see Luffy go to the bottom with Mihawk. Very quick sequence of turns there. Once again, Croc's boss monsters match very favorably into Rebecca's boss monsters. We see Kuros come across the table. I'm just going to counter out of it with the Kaya. And then we're going to see a red rock come down, removing the Mihawk. And we're going to have Rebecca's effect grab the Colosseum. You still want to have one of them, for sure, but we're not playing it this turn. We're playing another Toy Soldier. I believe the Rebecca player just sees how difficult this match is and is choosing to try to take the aggressor role in it instead of saving the toy soldiers as removal options in combination with an Orlumbus that's probably never going to be established. So instead of saving it as a 7 Don removal, we can use it as a 5k attacker. Speaking of a 5k attacker, Sasaki's coming across the table. There's a Triceratops helicopter coming across the table at you. What do you do in response? You discard a Sabo. Then we see Croc come across the table for what looks like 1 damage, and it is in fact 1 damage. And then we see that 3,000 worlds that we knew was there. Bottom deck the toy soldier. And again, it's just very difficult for Rebecca to establish a board. Now, Croc isn't exactly the fastest deck in the world, but Croc does have the ability to just continue to pressure. Okay, we're going to see 1 damage, and then 10 for a Kuzan. Oh my goodness, Kuzan coming down, removing the Sasaki. Now, Kazan, being a 10 cost, is probably the safest card Rebecca can play. This card perhaps is in the matchup, or is in the deck just for this kind of a matchup. Being a 10 drop, it is only susceptible to that card. And there it goes. He did, in fact, red rock him like a hurricane. So goodbye, Kuzan. All right, Rebecca just having trouble keeping anything other than this Kyros on the board. 1 soldier to rule them all, I suppose. We've got Colosseum coming down. Do we have a Luffy as well? We sure it looks like we do. We do in fact have a Luffy. Now the Kuma is a very interesting blocker. It, when it's KO'd, could play a 6-drop. Like to say it's getting worse when that happens. Leader effect is going to add a Bardo. And then we're going to see the Luffy go ahead and go 8 across the table at the Kuma. If this does clear the Kuma, then Luffy could potentially clear the Pacifista that comes off of it, if there is one. We're going to see a double Kaya come down to protect the Kuma. Croc does recognize that he needs bodies on the board to close this game out. You don't want to play a grind game against Rebecca. You just do not. So He's going to go ahead and protect that Pacifista, and then Rebecca's going to put some cards back, including a red rock. I think that red rock has Mihawk's name written all over it. And then we see Luffy swing again on the Pacifista and clear it. So Luffy getting a lot, or sorry, the Kuma and clear it. Luffy getting a lot of value out of that turn, taking two 2K counters out of Croc's hand and the body on the board. We see one Don immediately go in the Croc and it swing across the table for 6, so it's pretty obvious that this is happening. Yes, here comes Mihawk. The second Mihawk. Now the question is, does Rebecca have a red rock to answer the Mihawk? Okay, we're going to use the leader effect. Probably going to add the Rebecca off of that. I don't think we need another Coliseum. And we're going to use the Rebecca. There's a Cavendish. Very interesting. I don't think the Cavendish is going to be strong enough to threaten the Mihawk this turn. So we're going to grab a blocker instead. We grab the 2-cost blocker instead of the Bartolomeo, potentially because we intend to play it this turn. Bartolomeo, of course, has 2K counter, which makes it very useful in the hand as well, compared to the other blocker, which is only 1K counter, but costs 1 less. We see Gats come down, and then we're going to see Kyros go across the table. Now, here's where 2 Kaya in hand would have been very useful. And maybe Croc just didn't think that there was going to be enough there to remove it. Right, and Croc is going to counter out of it, going down to 1 card in hand and then drawing to 2 for turn. So this Mihawk is still a little bit in danger. We might have to go across the table at the Kyros with the Mihawk, or at the very least put some Dawn on our leader and try to take it out. Okay, we see Mihawk attack the leader. We're going to see a significant number of Dawn placed on the leader and attack. That will also deal 1 damage. Oh, it looked like that might have been a trigger. And then we're going to play down the Pacifista and put Kyros back in the hand. Very good. Croc's effect, the leader effect, very strong once you get to 10 Dawn, because you're going to maximize your start of turn gain 2 Dawn effect. This does mean, though, that next turn there is no possibility of Mihawk, because Croc goes to 8 Dawn. So now is a great time for Rebecca to establish a Luffy that could get red rocked, but that's about the only thing that Croc will be able to do because Mihawk costs 9 and Kaido costs 10. Okay, we're gonna see 3. Oh, we have a Kong gun on the Rebecca. Rebecca is now an 8K. It appears that Rebecca has decided that she wants to be the new Warlord of the Sea and challenges Mihawk for that title and takes it. Everyone welcome the new Warlord of the Sea, 1-drop Rebecca. And there goes Pacifista to the sword. Rebecca has simplified this game state very nicely. Now has complete advantage card-wise, but much lower life. We do see... Where did the player's Dawn go? Okay, there we go. Yeah, Croc drew 10-drop Kaido for turn. Looks like there's a little bit of confusion as to the Dawn there. Croc drew 10-drop Kaido for turn, meaning he can't play it. He has no play. Only going across the table for 5 and leaving all 8 Dawn up. I think he may have just forgotten about them. It happens. There They're in top 32. There's a lot of pressure on the players. All right, Rebecca is in a commanding position. Can she capitalize on it? She still has 3 life to get through. Croc only has 1 to get through. But it's Crocodile. He he is showing that there's only 1 attack next turn coming from the leader. So Rebecca still has at least 2 turns. We see a blocker come down now. Croc does not actually care about blockers. If the blocker's in the way, Croc can put it right back in the hand. We see an Orlumbus, we take an Orlumbus. Now's the turn Rebecca tries to build the board. Placing a Kyros down, milling a red rock. That is very painful to see, considering we see the 10-drop Kaido in hand. Very painful. And these Kyroses are going to be returned back to the hand. All right. We've got 5 coming across the table. Rebecca definitely needing to counter out of this attack. Just keep buying as many turns as possible. Croc is slow, and Rebecca needs to maintain the position. And here comes 10-drop Kaido, and the Kyros is back to hand. They do not have counter power, so they're just there now until they're replayed from the hand. They don't really do anything else. They flood Rebecca's hand with cards that stop her from potentially using her leader effect, her hero power. Can you tell what other card games I play? Her leader effect. We see Orlumbus come down, drop the Kaido to a 6-drop, milling a red rock in a 3000 worlds. Oh my goodness. You hate to see it. Okay, then we're going to 4 more, and we're going to sort it away. Beautiful. So, because there are 15 or more cards in the trash, Sword is able to hit a 6-drop, and Orlumbus made it a 6-drop. Rebecca effect revealing a Luffy. We're going to take that Luffy. We're definitely going to take that Luffy. We've lost a lot of our power spells, if you will. A lot of our event cards that are removal that are very important in the Croc match.
You are attempting to register for one of
So we
Ox's
see 6 come across the table. It's perfectly reasonable to block this because your blocker, yeah, your blocker doesn't really exist. Oh, exist against Croc's -4, but wow, another Mihawk. Croc just drawing back to back to back boss monsters. Rebecca had 1 turn to capitalize, and the correct boss monster was in the hand, ready to answer the capitalizing turn. Now we've got Mihawk here. Orlumbus plus 3000 worlds would clear the Mihawk. On the bright side, though, we have Luffy. It's not likely this Mihawk survives the turn cycle. We can put 2 Dawn on this Luffy and swing 9 twice. We could even swing 10 twice if we wanted. And we can Red Rocket. And we can, or not Red Rocket, sorry, Kong Gun it. Switch the Luffy to active mode. Now, here's an opportunity for Rebecca to put Croc at 1 life. You would give him 2 extra cards, though. So it is a question of, do I think my opponent has another Mihawk? I've lost count at this point. Do I think my opponent has a Red Rock? Do I really need to put some pressure on Croc and try to win this game? It is an opportunity for sure. And we're just going to pass on it. Unfortunately, we do see the Croc's hand, and we do see the Red Rock in it. At the very least, it's not another Mihawk, I suppose. From the Rebecca side. From Croc's side, unfortunately, it's not another Mihawk. Okay, we're gonna see 5 come across the table. This is concerning because it could mean that there's a 10-drop Kaido coming down. But if you're Rebecca, you aren't afraid of a 10-drop Kaido as much. You can still reestablish the Luffy if you need to. We're gonna counter out, and then we red rock him like a hurricane and play a pacifista. It looks like the last card in hand is Sogeking. All right. Rebecca's going to go ahead and find an Orlumbus. That is extremely good right now because of Toy Soldier in hand. But we're going to take the not Orlumbus. We already had an Orlumbus. I understand. Okay. So Orlumbus comes down. We're going to sack the Rebecca, drop the Pacifista to a 0 cost, mill another Orlumbus, and then we're going to Toy Soldier that Pacifista away. Milling a Luffy. Oh no. We might be running out of Luffy's. Luckily, they keep getting put to the bottom of the deck, so as long as it's not the very bottom card of the deck, as long as one more card gets bottom decked. So we've got Kyros, we've got Orlumbus, we've got a blocker. Croc has the leader effect, so you're going to see 4 Don on Croc swing for 9. I think this gets blocked. And then Sentomaru comes down. We're going to go ahead and see Sentomaru's effect go off. And we're probably going to see Croc -4 return Orlumbus to hand, maybe. The the Croc player is aware that there is a second toy soldier in the hand. So it is not likely that the Pacifista survives the cycle, but as long as one of the two bodies stay on the board, Croc could be threatening lethal through a blocker. We will probably see the Croc effect go off here. I don't think you can allow your opponent to keep both of them on the board. And no, you cannot. Put the Orlumbus back because it cost 1 more Don than the Kyros to replay. And we will most likely see the Orlumbus come back down this turn, unless there's another Luffy. If there's another Luffy, then there's another Luffy. And if you are the Rebecca player, you do need to be a little bit conscious of the fact that if you win this game, there's still a game 3 to get through. So you might want to keep that in mind as you move forward. Okay, leader effect. Guess we're taking a Sabo. Goodbye, Kazan. So we're going to see a 1-drop Rebecca come down. Looking at the top 3, losing another copy of Red Rock. Croc is a little out of boss monsters at the moment, but they'll be coming back, I'm sure. And then do we just see 4 Don for Olympus and 3 Don for Kyros? We're going to see 4 Don for Olympus. Going to rest the Coliseum, mill 2, shrink the Pacifista. Going to toy soldier it. Pay a Don. Play Gats. Very solid, very solid. And then we're going to give our Kyros the ability to attack that Sentomaru. The could have given that ability to the other Kyros and then swung face with that Kyros and really put some pressure on the Croc. Thanks to the Colosseum giving either Orlumbus or Kyros the ability to combo with that Gots.
Winterbox 58 to the stage, please. Winterbox
But maybe
58.
Rebecca just
Please
wants
report
to
to the stage,
get
please.
to a point where she can win in one turn. All right. Croc is going to go ahead and go 7 across the table, and that will be the last life. And then we've got a Pacifista, and then a Pass-a-Fista. Okay, Rebecca is in a situation where you could see a 15k Croc come across the table. This might just be the last turn that Rebecca gets. We did see a Sabo, but Sabo cost 5. So gonna need more than just Sabo. Going to need a second blocker with the Sabo. Because otherwise Croc's leader effect can put it away. That is 4 less on the swing. But if Rebecca couldn't counter out of a 7, Rebecca probably cannot counter out of an 11. Okay, we see a Luffy and an Orlumbus. I think we have to take the Luffy there unless we don't think that we can make it any further. And we just want counter power. Because the deck is getting very low at this point. It's very important to keep in mind the number of Luffys left and the fact that one of them sits on the very bottom of the deck. We're gonna see 5 come across the table. Croc's not taking any chances. Croc knows, I just get out of this one. That's all I need to do. Now you have to win the game by attacking me with both Rebecca and Gats. And Croc just doesn't see it happen. Also, we've seen every boss monster on Croc's side so far, so there's a good chance the life is filled with counters. You see 5, that's a damage. Okay, we're gonna pay 3. All right, we got Kong Gun, let's do it. If there is a trigger, there is not a trigger. Okay, then we put everything on Rebecca, and we ask our opponent, is it enough? It is not enough. All right. Impressive. Kong Gun coming in clutch there. Now we're moving on to game 3. That was very back and forth. I believe we were Mihawks come down on Croc's side that game. One was bottom deck, shuffled back in, redrawn. We saw a 10-drop Kaido come down. We saw many Luffys go to the bottom of the deck. Very, very many of them. Red Rocks flying back and forth. Red Rocks getting milled back and forth. It was a very, very good game. Rebecca just managing to make Croc run out of value. I think the pivotal moment in that game was when the four cost 5k Kuma was swung on with the Luffy and Croc discarded 2 Kayas to save it. I think that ended up losing Croc so much advantage that it just Croc could not recover from it, even with the help of boss monster after boss monster after boss monster. All right, so both players are going to shuffle up. Cut the decks, and we're going to move into game 3. Croc's going to get to choose this time. Most likely going to force Rebecca to go first. Croc is looking for Sentamaru. Rebecca is looking for just consistency cards. Croc is going to go ahead and keep the hand. Looks like Rebecca's going to mulligan away. Rebecca has some good early game options. Cards like Rebecca, for example. All right, and we're going to go ahead and get into game 3. The fist bump of game 3. Rebecca most likely starting, yep. And then we're going to pay 1, use the leader effect, We see a toy soldier and a Bartolomeo. Gonna go ahead and take the Bardo. Croc just gets 2 Don and passes. Pretty understandable. I don't think Croc has a single card that can be played on that turn. Gonna leader effect. We see a Luffy and an Orlumbus. We're gonna go ahead and take the Orlumbus. And then we're gonna pay 1 Don for Rebecca. Wow. Talk about the power players of your deck in one Rebecca. Now that's 2 Luffys in the trash. Definitely important to keep that in mind, that your number of Luffys is already down by 50%. We're gonna go ahead and see a Pacifista come down and pass turn. That is once again called the Pass-Afista. Alright, Rebecca's on 5 Dawn. And we're gonna go ahead and just sword away the Pacifista. And then leader effect. Rebecca or Gat's gonna go ahead and take the Rebecca here. Just continue to filter the deck. You know, you mulligan at the start of the game, but Rebecca really has the ability to pick what cards she wants in her hand. Alright, we're going to see 8 come across the table. That does mean there's no Sentimaru this turn, which is pretty comforting. We get to see the top 5 cards of the deck, and we do see the boy. But honestly, the rest of the cards are not that incredible. This this kind of looks like a bottom deck, to be completely honest with you. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and put the Senti on top. Pass the turn. I cannot see the rest of Croc's hand, but hopefully it's a lot of boss monster. It is. It absolutely is. Okay. Wow. Wow. Now I can see that. This might be a rough game for Rebecca. All right, we're gonna see Cavendish come down. Very
Attention, 10
cool.
a.m. Chopper. Please check into your event if you have not done so yet. We have 10 minutes till it begins. We can
He cannot do that. He
please
needs a
us to
Dawn.
check in order to get your participation. We cannot double the choppers unless we get to
Yeah,
100
he needs a
checked
Dawn on
in
it to do that.
throughout the day. Once we get to
Now
100
he can
checked
do it.
in, that is Bandai policy to give out double chopper. So please make sure you check in for your event in order for us to scale that appropriately.
Yep. Yeah, so Cavendish does need a Dawn on it, so he does have to commit the 1 Dawn. And that's a 7 on a 4, so or 7 on a 3. That'll do it. No, 7 on 4. I was right the first time. And that'll clear it. And then we're going to play another Rebecca. And we're going to say goodbye to a Red Rock. I think that you have to take the Luffy here, and it seems the Rebecca player agrees. With 2 Luffys already in the trash, it's about time to have a Luffy in hand. Alright, and Croc is on 8 Dawn this turn, meaning the boss monster train starts rolling soon. We see 6. We're going to go ahead and counter that with the Bardo that we got earlier. And then we're going to use a 3000 Worlds and make that Cavendish go away. And we're going to play probably the Miss All Sunday here. So there are a couple options. You can actually use the Sentimaru as bait. So you play the Sentimaru here, and it's pure bait. It's to draw out the Luffy from your opponent's hand because you intend to use the hockey on it. So will the Rebecca player take the bait? And if they don't, you just have a Sentimaru. So it looks like Rebecca's going to take the safer route and just shrink it and toy soldier it. Very solid. That is the risk you run playing the Sentimaru there. If they have the Orlumbus and Toy Soldier, they can always go that route. But sometimes you just want to test your opponent and see, will they play into it? Will they make a mistake that I can capitalize on? So, all right, we see one Don go on the Croc, and an attack comes across the table, and then Mihawk comes down. And it's right about now that Rebecca's thinking, wow, I'm extremely glad that I didn't play Luffy last turn. And it's right about now the Croc player's thinking, I hope you think that and play your Luffy this turn. Because Croc, of course, has a second Mihawk. Orlumbus put to the bottom means that we can't Orlumbus and 3000 Worlds the Mihawk unless we have another Orlumbus. And ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have another Orlumbus. It is Rebecca's turn to have the answer for everything. We're going to go ahead and shrink the Mihawk, and so I believe that Mihawk is going to be going to the bottom of the deck. Nope, we're going to just kill it with the sword. Still quite beautiful. Alright, and do we see Toy Soldier come across the table for 5? We do not. Rebecca just trying to whittle Croc's resources down. Rebecca definitely feeling like she's in the driver's seat this game. Croc on the back foot. And now Croc is aware of the fact that there's still a Luffy in that hand. There's still a threat. I'm gonna go ahead and use this red rock. Get rid of another Orlumbus. There are quite a number of them that have been attacking this Croc's character cards. And we're gonna see a Robin come down. This Robin will be, or Miss All Sunday, excuse me, will be able to add back one of those event cards that we've seen when she's KO'd. And we've seen some good ones. Red Rock, 3000 Worlds. Oh, Leader Effect reveals another Toy Soldier. We're going to go ahead and take that other. Nope, we're going to take the blocker. Okay. And then here comes Luffy. So Luffy's going to go ahead and attack the Robin. And the Croc player just immediately grabbing back the Red Rock. So at this point, you're using the Luffy effect so you can return your other Luffys. It does seem like it's pointless to untap the Luffy. You know very well that your opponent can remove the Luffy. They just got the card back that did it. But what you need here is the rest of your deck back. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to put a Luffy as close to the top as we can. And we know that this Luffy is going to go to the bottom of the deck. So will we see Toy Soldier finally turn sideways this turn? Or are we just going to play a blocker and pass? We're going to play a blocker. And we're going to pass. Okay, well, I think we're going to see one Don on the leader swing, and then I think Luffy's going to go to the bottom, but I don't think Rock is the thing that's going to do it. Yep, here comes Mihawk, and there goes Luffy. So now the question, do we have the answer for the Mihawk? We've seen an answer out of Rebecca every turn that one has been required. Let's see if we can do it one more time. Pay 1 for the leader effect. There's a Cavendish, and there's an answer that goes to the trash, unfortunately. We do see a lot of red rocks in Rebecca's deck. It's definitely no stretch of the imagination that one is in hand at this point. There's also the option of playing the Cavendish for 5 and equipping your remaining 4 Dawn to it and swinging across the table for 10 at the Mihawk. Force your opponent to have a 2K. And in fact, I think that's exactly what we're going to see happen. Never mind. We're actually just establishing the Cavendish and an Orlumbus. This is a vanilla Orlumbus, essentially. and
Three
it's
minutes
quite
left. Can
vulnerable.
Chopper check in if you would like to
We're gonna see
play
Mihawk go
or
to
check
face,
in for the 10 a.m.
and we're
Chopper?
gonna block that. Now
Three minutes left.
I think Red Hawking, or not Red Hawking, Rocking, Red Rocking the Orlumbus here is a very solid decision if Croc chooses to make it, because there are already two Orlumbus that have been put to the bottom of the deck. Oh, okay, and yep, Red Rock comes down on the Orlumbus. I agree very much with that decision. And then we're going to play a Miss All Sunday for a little bit of protection on the Mihawk. Croc finding his footing. It only took the second Mihawk, but Croc is now finding his footing in this game. Rebecca's not out of it, but Rebecca does have 5 life to eat through. We saw last game that that can happen pretty easily thanks to Kong Gun. We're going to see a 3000 worlds. That's a very, very strong 3000 worlds because that Robin does not gain value now. She does not add back the red rock again. All right, we're gonna make this Cavendish quite a little bit buff. So Cavendish is sitting at a 12 right now, thanks to the Gatling gun or Kong gun. We're gonna get 14. You know what? 14 at your 9. That'll be a 15. Boy, you hate to see keeping one Don up and it being the one Don that made the difference. I'll go ahead and grab this Luffy though. That Mihawk can stick around for a turn. No problem. My opponent just discarded 3 cards. It's a fine exchange. Croc is once again down to 2 cards in hand. So game state simplified. And Mihawk no longer going face, now going after the Cavendish. He is down. Protecting the Cavendish there could be important because you've got you've got the Croc leader effect, which would put it back in hand, but it still does have the ability to attack active mode cards. So it's not like it just sits there and does nothing. And then 7 coming across the table. We see 1 for Law, and then we see Soga King come down. This will just mill 2. So he'll draw 2, discard 2. And neither one was a boss monster. And then we also return. Not sure what they're talking about here. So Soga King does bounce a card. Maybe they're just talking about the order that those effects have to happen in. Because Soga King does bounce first. Alright, and it is time for Luffy. The Luffy Master General has landed. We're gonna pay 1. And we're gonna use our blocker to clear the law. You guys can't see it, but the stream producer here just lost his mind over that play. He loved it so much. And then we're going to see Luffy clear the Mihawk, clear the Soge King, and Croc is out of resources. Croc is now in full top deck mode. 5 life though, so those will be coming to him eventually. But now this Luffy might just survive. This might be the first time we get to see a Luffy stick around for more than 1 turn. Did he draw? Did he draw a Mihawk? Alright. This Croc has exceptional top decking skills. Boss monster after boss monster, usually. Yep. Gonna go ahead and just go in there. And he top decked the red rock to put the Luffy away. My goodness. Okay, Rebecca's at nothing. which is not a place Rebecca wants to be. Going to need a second blocker on the board. Let's see if we can find one. Can we find a Sabo? We sure can. Now Croc is just saying, all right, you have 5 life to get through. I am going to just attack big every turn until you only have one blocker left, and then I'm going to put that back in your hand and attack big again. We're going to see Bardo into Sabo. Very nice. Just rebuild that board. Sabo is going to draw 2, discard a Coliseum, discard a Kazan. Yep. Just no real safe moment to play that Kazan. And then we've got the leader effect. My goodness, either that's the 4th or Lumbus, or we're back. All right. Croc draws. 3 blockers on the board. Certainly a lot to get through for Croc. And they're in overtime now. So that's not good news for Rebecca. And this is what I was alluding to earlier, is that Rebecca needs to keep in mind that time is coming up. Croc has 5 life. Rebecca needs to deal 5 damage very, very quickly over the course of this turn and next turn. And that Miss All Sunday is very much in the way. And if Rebecca chooses to attack with Sabo, Rebecca might just fall to the big swing from Croc. This was a very good game and a very close game, but now Rebecca is in rush mode. Okay. We see a double or Lumbus come down, so we have officially gone through our deck at least once. And there's the Luffy and the sword that we put back on top. Gonna go ahead and pop the Robin. Add back 3,000 worlds. And that is honestly probably enough to finish the game by itself. You 3,000 worlds one of the blockers, and then you use the 4 Dawn that you paid for that to clear the other one. And then you just go across the table for 11.
Witterbox 59, please meet by the stage. Witterbox 59, please meet by the stage.
Rebecca is forced to take the 2K here, but chooses the Luffy. And then passes, so top deck to 3,000 worlds anyway. My goodness. Okay, well, I think it's pretty clear here. You bottom deck the Sabo, leader effect, the Bardo, and go across the table for 11. Your opponent only gets one more turn anyway. Interesting. I think we're just gonna remove the threats from the board and use time to our advantage. Which is fair. Instead of going for the kill, just let the clock do it. Goodbye, Sabo. Goodbye, Orlumbus. Goodbye, Orlumbus. And goodbye, Rebecca. Well, that was an excellent game. Very close. We got a really match between 2 decks that don't play red cards, which is always nice to see. Very good games on both players' side. We get to see the life